All right, apes, settle in. The simulation is glitching out again. The suits, they think we don't see the flickers in the code, right? The little anomalies in the data stream. But we do. And those glitches, they are not noise, they are signals. And we're about to decode one that is, frankly, screaming at us.
So here it is, the first anomaly, plus 45%. Just let that number hang there for a second. A spike that big, that fast, that's not a signal, my friends. That is a klaxon alarm. But for what?
For this, yep, the street price for a kilo of cocaine just went completely vertical. Now, the official story? Oh, it's simple. U.S. strikes on some drug boats, cause and effect. Done. The suits, they love a simple story, don't they?
And here's the official soundtrack that goes with it. A big broadcast from the top, all sound and fury. It's loud, it's dramatic, and it's designed to be the only thing you see. It's a classic misdirection. Look over here. Well, the real play is happening somewhere else entirely.
But we don't just look at the surface, do we? That 45% price spike is not just about drugs. It is a glitch. It's a symptom of a much, much deeper instability. A crack in the very foundation of the official story they're trying to sell us. And that is the real signal we are here to decode. So, okay, let's look at the simulation's code as it's supposed to be seen. The official narrative is clean, it's simple, and it's always bullish. It's a story of strength, prosperity, and security, and it's broadcast 24/7 on all the mainstream feeds.
This is the story, right? Tariffs are rocket fuel for the economy. Strong leadership makes us all safe. A rising tide is lifting all boats. It's a smooth, polished narrative. But when we look a little closer at the data, we start to see the pixels fray at the edges. So let's start with the first major glitch, and it's right where they claim their biggest victory: tariffs. The story is all about protecting American jobs. The data, though, well, the data tells a very, very different story. Just look at this disconnect. I mean, the promise was so simple. Tax the foreigners, bring the jobs home. The reality, according to the data, American companies going bankrupt, manufacturers moving more work offshore, and the cost, it gets passed directly to us, right at the checkout counter. Sound familiar?
And let's look at the raw numbers here. This isn't some abstract economic theory. This is a direct tax. The tariff on toys went from zero to over 22%. Pet products jumped from 5% to over 28%. So the crucial point is, this isn't rocket fuel, it's sand in the engine. And you're the one paying for the repairs. And here is the real-world impact. Value City Furniture, a 75-year-old American company, filed for Chapter 11. They specifically cited tariffs as a major factor. Sales dropped from $1.1 billion to $800 million in just 2 years. 120 stores are closing. That is not making America rich again. That's a huge signal of systemic stress.
Okay, on to the second glitch. The narrative says the economy is strong for everyone. But the data shows a really sharp divergence, a split, what the quants like to call a K-shaped recovery.
Now, this isn't from some fringe blog post. This is from the Federal Reserve's own Beige Book. The Fed itself is documenting a surge in demand for food assistance, with food banks literally running low. This directly contradicts that story of broad prosperity. The system is showing strain right where it matters most, the dinner table.
So, what is a K-shaped economy? Think of it like a rocket launch. For the suits up in the command module, hey, everything's pressurized, the stock market's hitting all-time highs, and they are headed for the moon. But for the rest of us down in the cargo bay, there is a slow leak. That downward arm of the K is the reality for millions, and the Fed's own data pretty much confirms it. Okay, now for the third glitch, and this one is maybe the most alarming. The narrative is all about being tough, projecting strength, securing the homeland. But while the loudspeakers are blaring about Venezuela, the actual security infrastructure is quietly being hollowed out from the inside.
Just look at this contrast. The public sees these really aggressive moves, like closing Venezuelan airspace. The data, coming from dozens of attorneys inside the Justice Department, shows critical counterterrorism units being absolutely gutted. The people with decades of experience fighting real threats are leaving in droves.
Minus 70%. That's a hard number. It's not a guess, it is not an opinion, it's a catastrophic decline.
A 70% reduction of experienced national security lawyers in the Eastern District of Virginia's unit. That's one of the most important offices for fighting terrorism and espionage in the entire country. A unit that had 12 to 14 experts is now down to 4. So while the simulation projects this image of strength, the actual firewalls, they're being dismantled.
Okay, we've identified the glitches, the tariff trap, the K-shaped lie, the national security facade. Now, it is time to connect the dots. It's time to see the underlying code of the simulation itself.
Now, the framework for all this stuff is called narrative economics. And the idea is actually pretty simple. Powerful stories drive markets, often for years, totally regardless of the fundamentals. Think about it. We've all heard that the market is a voting machine in the short term, but a weighing machine in the long run. The problem is with social media and 24/7 news cycles, that short term can last a very, very long time.
So here's the pattern. For every powerful, simple story the suits are selling, there's a corresponding data glitch that shows the exact opposite. A story of toughness hides real weakness. A story of prosperity hides widespread financial pain. A story of putting America first hides the reality of American businesses failing. This is the hidden danger. The narrative is strong, but the fundamentals are cracking.
So, what is the ape thesis? What is all this data telling us?
Okay, first, the legal guardrail. This is not financial advice. Think of this as educational banter. The market is a casino, and we are just analyzing the patterns. The core thesis is this. We are in a narrative-driven market that is becoming more and more disconnected from the data on the ground. The stories are powerful, sure, but stories don't pay the bills. Eventually, the market stops voting and starts weighing, and that moment, that's when things get volatile. The longer the narrative holds, the harder the fall when reality finally decides to show up.
Look, the price of cocaine going up 45% isn't really about cocaine. It's a flicker. It's a sign that the official narrative is under serious stress. So the question for you is, now that you've seen these glitches, can you see the code underneath it all? What other glitches are you seeing out there? Drop them in the comments below. Let's see what you found.
We are watching this chart like a hawk. While you wait for the next candle, grab your free gear. Sign up for Public to get $20 in free assets, check Webull for that BTC promo, or grab your NVDA stock on Moomoo. Links are in the description. Smash the like, subscribe to the tribe.
Apes together strong.